afternoon and welcome to Pan-African News. We are coming to you from our studios in Abelenkpe, 48 Swanika Street here in Accra. We are live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. We are also live on YouTube, Pan-African Television. My name is Justice Appiah. Coming up shortly, Eric Kelvin Elikem Kotoko, a member of the National Democratic Congress communication team, attributes recent power outages to lack of finance in sustaining the energy sector. We will also bring you the implications of tribalism and ethnocentrism on nation building and national security. Also, residents of Taifa, Banchansi laments over bad rain in the area. Business will bring you ranking member of Mines and Energy Committee, John Jenapo, challenges government on intermittent power outages. These and many other stories, including international sports and entertainment, will come your way shortly. Please stay. Welcome back. Now let's do some local stories. A communicator of the National Democratic Congress, Eric Kelvin Elikem Kotoko, has attributed the recent power outages facing the country to lack of finance in sustaining the energy sector. According to him, the government should clear the air on the deeply worrying situation and desist from blaming it on maintenance of major transformers, which could take just about 4 months.
They are rather confronted with a financial challenge and are finding it difficult to actually come clean and tell Ghanaians of the fact that, look, we are in a financial mess and we are unable to resolve it now, and this is it, maybe this is the roadmap and that. But as of now, we are still being, you and I are being told that Ghana is the only country that is enjoying electricity in the whole world, where if we have to embark on a maintenance schedule, it requires 4 months. To the people of Ashanti region in Kumasi, it requires more than even 4 months for maintenance work to be done. You are the media men. Take your cameras from now till the next 4 months and December and see how much work will be done at the places that are being mentioned to you, that it is as a result of those maintenance works that they are coming to embark on this. Don't forget that even in March 2018, the current Gridco CEO made you and I know that the country will be plunged into a major power outage, nationwide power outage. That was the current CEO of Gridco, who made us know of this. And so it is not news that some of us are witnessing this, because we are already privy to what is going on. Government has failed to invest at the energy sector. We have failed to actually imbibe in ourselves the culture of maintenance. So a lot of the transmission lines, etc., are now congested, and therefore there's need for the kind of work to be done. Now, the kind of work you need to do requires money. It again brings us back to ESLA. ESLA, which President Mahama at the time actually bequeathed over 230 million cedis to the current government in 2017. And don't forget, from 2017 to date, they have also been able to raise over 12 billion from ESLA. Then another 20 billion from petroleum revenues. But the major question is, what has this regime been doing with all the funds that accrue to it?
Now on the same issue, a member of the New Patriotic Party communications team, Nana Dansa Appiah, has asserted that the issue of the power outages is in relation to ongoing maintenance work and has no issue to do with funds. He further stated that there is excess generational capacity to the extent of powering the neighboring countries.
Then, under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, like I said, was a generational capacity issue. You get it? There were no funding, we had no money to pay for this generational, for there to be, let's say, power or for this generational capacity or something, where we could have this stable electricity or something. Now, under this very dispensation, you and I know, and Elika knows this thing that I'm about to say, that we have excess generational capacity. Is it true or not? My brother, can you answer? Is it true or is not? Why we even
is it good or bad too?
It is good.
Okay.
Why is it not? Why is it not good? To the extent that we could just extend some to neighboring countries for us to get some funding into our coffers. Why is it bad?
Okay.
You get it? It is nothing in relation to anything about funding. What we are seeing now, I heard the technical, I think the engineer for Gridco, and he made statement that because of maintenance, it is not a routine maintenance. You made mention of routine maintenance. Since 1970, whatever, according to you, is it 1973 or something, there had never been any maintenance on this particular lines or something. That's what I heard.
Really?
Yes.
Afrobarometer report released by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, suggests that Ghanaians endorse taxation and are willing to pay higher taxes to support the country's development. The report, however, stated that majority of Ghanaians find it difficult to know what taxes and fees they are supposed to pay and how the government uses tax revenues.
Ghanaians have agreed to pay more taxes. I mean, that is a responsible thing to do.
The CDD in a study disclosed that citizens are more supportive of taxation if they believe the government is doing a good job of delivering basic services. But many citizens also express mistrust of tax authorities and see widespread corruption among tax officials. Speaking to Pan-African News' Justice Appiah, research analyst at CDD, Gilfred Boateng-Isiama, indicated that the reason behind the study was to ask Ghanaians and know their perspective on taxation. He said the research was also meant to inform policies and strategies by government to be more efficient.
Nation and a self-reliant one, which all countries aspire to be. So it is standard in our Afrobarometer data collection to ask Ghanaians and know their perspectives about taxation. So we even did this before the introduction of the new taxes. So this is a standard question that we always ask Ghanaians. And this is also to inform policies and strategies used by government. So if government wants to roll out new tax initiatives, this report is indicating to you that there are challenges that government needs to overcome. It means government has to be more efficient than it has ever been in reaching out to the public, giving them what they need to know, what they need to pay, how the monies they are being paid or are being paid for these taxes are being used for. And in fact, part of the research, or part of the findings, indicated that people who had rated the government positively stated that, well, government is doing well in providing electricity or water or health services, were more likely to say they will pay more taxes than those who rated government poorly, which also signifies some reciprocity in the payment of taxes. When people pay the taxes, they expect government to work for their benefit.
Mr. Boateng-Isiama said out of every 10 citizens spoken to, 7 indicated that they are willing to pay more taxes to support or finance the development of Ghana.
Very well. Now, you talked about, in this particular report, you talked about the fact that Ghanaians are willing to pay tax, but find it very difficult to know what the taxes are used for. Now, let's link this to the introduction or imposition of new taxes on the good people of Ghana. We've heard a lot of people who have complained about these taxes. We went out and spoke to, some traders, we spoke to the good people of Ghana. It looked as if they were uncomfortable with the introduction of new taxes, how then will your report find out that these persons are willing to pay the taxes as introduced and all of that?
Well, the question we posed to people when we met them in the Afrobarometer data collection was whether people are willing to finance the development of their country, which is Ghana, rather than we as a country going out to borrow money, get loans to develop the country. And in every 10 Ghanaians that we spoke to, 7 indicated that they prefer to pay more taxes to support or finance the development of Ghana than we going out for loans. And this also comes when, after we had asked them whether they believe the government had the right to extract taxes from them. You have 8 in 10 Ghanaians who said.
This report comes on the back of the newly introduced taxes by the government. The government in its 2021 budget statement introduced new taxes, including a 1% COVID-19 levy, a 1% increase in national health insurance levy, and 1% increase in flat VAT rate, as well as a 30% increase in fuel prices to take care of excess power capacity charges and sanitation and pollution levy. The Ghana Federation of Labour and the Association of Ghana Industries had expressed concerns over these taxes. The AGI fears these taxes may have a huge toll on the business community, particularly at a time when players are reeling from the devastating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, still on the Afrobarometer report conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, Pan-African News was in town to gauge the mood of taxpayers, and this is what they had to say on the report.
Ghanaians have agreed to pay more taxes. I mean, that is a responsible thing to do, as any responsible Ghanaian has to do. But my concern is with the structures that we have in place. It doesn't actually attract a very strong tax base in this country, because people are in informal sectors and they all depend on government for services. So government cannot actually even assess the tax revenue that they need to get to actually develop this particular country. And the country is far behind in the structures for actual tax collection. You see, because right now what I've observed in this country is, if you are in business, that tax structures kill your business. Other than volunteering to pay, the tax structures penalize you. Rather than so many people who the government cannot have access to actually have them pay taxes. So although any responsible Ghanaian wants to pay taxes, but the structures are not too good.
Well, as for me, I don't see that Ghanaians has really accepted it, because they are just imposing it on us because we have no say. You understand? They always do things that will suit their own whims and caprices. So I'm very disappointed in this government because I was very optimistic about the Akufo-Addo government, but as things are going now, I'm very disappointed. Actually, I don't think this implementation of tax 6 is very relevant, because usually they will implement it, they will go ahead, tell you they are coming to do this, they are coming to do that. But at the end of the day, it will go into someone's pocket, and you don't see the effect of it. So I don't see it as relevant as it is.
That's so much so. Oh yes, the same collection. Musim be show biaka. So at yes, and some guys have to start to store some rats. Don't say na madam, bisa lady na madam more than 2 hours. Enter here. They be also to adim. They be out of the and the trouble question atum. So at yes, and I was yes to taxi man. I said, "What say?" In 23 Ghana,
I disagree to the fact that because sometimes Ghanaians are unaware about those increments of taxes, it makes them look so rare. So sometimes, particularly in those things, it's kind of rare. But due to the fact that increment of tax is about Ghanaians, fat, I believe it should kind of like decrease because it makes Ghanaians look so like extremely high due to the fact that they are unaware.
And one year they puntunjuma or mine no me misu and ebeboa Ghana ma yen kan kwa akwani because say nyoma ye den nti say omo je taxes no na say omo de be ye puntunjuma enya say omo je ne kwa omo je na omo de be ye bibia ma economy na koso a remove betua.
Now let's go to Nkwanta, where teachers and pupils of St. Teresa Roman Catholic Junior High School at Nkwanta in the OT region are appealing to authorities for immediate help. According to them, the dilapidated nature of their facility is also hindering effective teaching and learning.
The school, which was built in the 90s, has seen little or no refurbishment. Additionally, the exceedingly worrying situation has contributed to overcrowding in some classes, and others are also compelled to sit under trees for studies. The teachers and pupils are also appealing to authorities for the construction of a mechanized borehole to ease the problem of accessing potable water.
The RCJHS is a double stream school. The block we have just captured is the block B. It got to this state since 2014. At the time I was an under teacher. I've been here. When we realized it was getting deplorable, we contacted the assembly engineer. He came to do the assessments and he advised we vacate the children from those classrooms, which we did. And so we had no choice than to match them in a classroom. So if you enter those classrooms, you realize we don't have less than 60 children in the classroom. But meanwhile, the rooms as they are not supposed to take more than 40. But we have over 65 children in each of the classrooms. We've taken the necessary steps. We have informed the authorities. We spoke with the MP some time ago. He came to have a look at it. He promised he was going to use part of his common fund to do something about it. But we've been pushing. He's not done anything meaningful to support us. We were with the municipal assembly, spoke with the municipal chief executive about the condition of the structure. And he also promised. Until last December, we've been told they've awarded a contract, a 6-unit classroom block contract. Before the elections, the contractor sent his boys to have a few blocks molded, like you can see. But afterwards, we've not seen the contractor, we've not heard from him. We are only appealing that if that 6-unit classroom block is put up, it will help us a lot, especially now that we need to do social distancing in this COVID era. It will help, and we are appealing to all stakeholders, NGOs who will be in position to come to our aid, to come and then support us.
Residents of Taifa Banchiase, a suburb of Accra, have expressed worry over a wooden bridge in the area. Now, the residents said the facility, which has become a death trap, affects them badly anytime it rains.
Which is sited to a nearby house, has inconvenienced the residents for several years. It also looks weak and could easily collapse if left unattended to. The residents, who are exceedingly worried over the situation, disclosed that whenever it rains, the bridge is submerged underwater, and this hinders movement of people from one location to another.
My child met 20 years. So I am a yili sana na ayede a bridge ni na to me the bubu. Omo complaining. Say am kola nso so ha mu ko school I find why do omo ebesia bridge ni bubu sa na omu nya ba bi mfa gata na ya omu be yiyi mu yiyi mu wi a eno ano no nso to nso so a na eyiri so ta ne atwe ahwea na omu yi a na omu adwiri ni nyina ya den egu gata na no nso to na ase adwiri ni nyina egu nso na nso na yiri na fa gata ni nyina mpachi ya pese omu be gata no emai omu ya gata na nso ta nya ba bi mfa so ya pese mu ya gata na mai.
A visibly perturbed resident revealed that anytime it rains heavily and the bridge is submerged underwater, there is loss of livestock and property.
Since I come here, the river, if it flood the whole place, you know, and the other times, if it take one man come past this, even chickens, goats, everything, when it's raining, everything scatter here, you know, people, kiosks, everything scatter. So this one, it's not like we begging the government. It's a thing they're supposed to do. Because we have MP here, but nothing are going. But when it's election time, you go see them coming, then holy pa promises and holy pa attack them, come talk to we. But at the end of the day, nothing we see. So we are not begging them or we are not pleading them. It's a thing they need to do. Because holy pa taxes, where them take from the people. But nothing are going with weed here.
Others also expressed same and made the passionate appeal to the Member of Parliament for the constituency, Sarah Aduasafo, to address their genuine concern.
Because the ones, you know, it's me yiri basro crutches or show them cry. I just whoop you and I said, Bejina, Tebuso. Sana Yansuni and Tino. It's me Bama yet it will only appear. So, until Pienso saw. Ebo woni amade anybody we fi waju won kwa ne hia so that's it any dey yan kan ebo aye brek o bridge dey I say yen na achakura yan ka say na ye dey ahoden eye sawe no kura so o hwe nse wo no kura ye dey ahoden na ye dey ye say bebo ye ho ban kakra ba atin ni na ya nkwesi hwe nda bi aban bi am ye bibia mfa ho ye.
Oh, minua ba mi da se pa sema wa boss na ya asem bi a ha ye area for ha nyina pa especially ya ye wo edan e wa hanom no enso to a yetimi nya kwan enko ye fie na bridge na ye wa hanom so no senso to a bridge ni timi ye ma nti se in case of say wo free akromu ba senso to ansa na wo be fie a before wo be ko ekodu fie no eye dimpa senso ni talk esia bridge ni timi yemma untimi nko bebia ka kra before betimi anya ka kwan kra kokra no eye din amaye but ye mp na e wa hanom no oben ye wa bet ye nheda nim adikudie potia ewo woni aban ni ntema nhihia ewo omuni aban ni ntema bridge no onye say bridge kitwa ka bia betimi afa so omu ya ka bia betimi abefa so bet eye din maye.
Well, we are going for a breather. We'll be right back.
Hey, Truman capsules. One mama ya bema bion.
Truman ye marime drew and mofra woni imfie dun watchi intumi numbi. Sa jedi enkra to we FDA for hwemu agya tum say hye.
area baako a higher member pa especially ya 40 years and above no a fire prostate ho obetumi prostate enlargement and after prostatitis se wokwa yaresabia na catch us wo PSA level eko higher kaina hu se wo prostate no ho ya tochema se hu se wo chim ansa na wadwonso wo dwonso na emu apai anaso edu anadwo a wota dwonso a ene kaina hu se wonya prostate disorder. So to me didi ye and as what tatinete wapom and as when your daily supplement bia ebetumi aboa ama o prostate no ejina na nan so somebody man church we a natural link company womode pros love capsules eboa mberima prostate true man and dinner capsules eboa emba efrichiriko obetumi afre omo.
Welcome back. You're still watching Pan-African News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. Now let's do some more local stories. The tiny West African nation of Ghana has been touted as a beacon of democracy and an oasis of peace. The forerunner, peacemaker and torchbearer of African emancipation has made giant strides in consolidating an embryonic democracy which is being tainted by ethnocentrism and tribalism. My colleague Gregory Amoa caught with some people to gauge their views on the issue and came through with this report.
Tribalism and ethnocentrism should be discouraged since it creates division and unhealthy rivalry among the citizenry. Additionally, it hampers a country's forward march and undermines peaceful coexistence and harmonious living. The phenomenon can also breed secessionism if the national cake is not equitably distributed. The last for inordinate power, which has tainted the consolidation of democracy, can be attributed to tribalism and ethnocentrism. In an interaction, some students at the University of Ghana shared varied views on the implications of the practice on nation building and cohesion.
With this situation at hand, I would say the leaders have major role to play in the tribalism of our politics, and the citizens also have the minor role, but it should be mainly pinned on the leadership, because if you see certain things in our administration of government nowadays, if you are not from a certain group of people or a certain tribe, it's hard for you to get favor or job from a ruling government who is from that tribe. Yeah, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because right now, if, for example, I'm an Akan and I'm going to seek for job in a firm, they want, first of all, the thing they check for is where I'm coming from. So they want to favor their hometown people. So with that, they tend to favor them in return. When it's time for election, they favor them back. That the citizens favor the politicians back. So I would say the politicians are the one leading the way, because they are our leaders. We've voted for them to lead the way, to chart a better path for us. So if we see them leading a certain way, we the citizens will follow. In the 1960 something, coming to the 1992 when we had our Fourth Republic, the people of the Akans have this ideology about the NDC. I'm making an example. I had this ideology about the NDC that during the time of J.J. Wallace, late J.J. Wallace, he was so harsh on them, especially the Coles. He was so harsh on them. So because of that, they decided not to associate themselves massively with the NDC, but rather go with the MPP. So they now portray themselves as the Coles, as to be the tribe of Coles, as to be MPP. So I would say it's because of the actions of our political leaders, but either good or bad, in any way, is the actions of our political leaders that has forward certain tribalistic activities going on in the country. Because the politicians, they are wise. So when they see your weakness, they tend to play towards the weaknesses in order to get the advantage of you.
as he's rightly agreed with me, is the politicians. During campaigns, they have their own strategies, they have their own game plan, and then part of the game plan is to get people to vote. How do you get people to vote? By trying to get people to identify with me. It's very important. Okay. So if people are not identifying with you, why would they turn out? If I come to you and I say, vote for me because I'm this, I'm one of you, I'm a son of the land, I'm a daughter of the tribe, it forces many more people to turn out and make their voices heard. Because
now, the National Coordinator for Ghana NGOs Coalition on the Rights of the Child, GNCRC, Berima Akwesi Amankwa, has called for correctional centers in order to help reform teenagers across the country. He was speaking on the back of the gruesome murder of 11-year-old Ishmael Mensah Abdullah at Kasua on the couch with Mami Ama Pratt on Pan-African Television.
We can do something. And for that matter, what can we do? If you look at the number of correctional centers that are available as at now, with the exception of, let's say, Buster Home, where else do you have again? That is the first question.
Right.
The second question is that children are not supposed to be mixed up with adults. And I don't know the police station that they are now,
right,
whether they are having a remand home. So we see that for the children, they are supposed to have what we call a remand home. That is the period that they are going to be. So they are not supposed to be in cell. So at the remand home, you have to get a counselor, psychologist, and other things, trying to find out, to understand what really the situation is. And when they have come to the level of acceptability, then the court, their case is heard in court, on camera, not public gallery.
Right.
And then they are given those terms to serve. That is when the next ladder come on board for us to see how best we continue from where we left. But here is the case as a country. We have not put up that facility that is going to help us to really transform our children in that context. Because where the case happened is Kaswa Central Region.
Right.
But in the Central Region, do we have that facility there? If, for instance, that happened in Tamale, do we have that facility there?
Right.
The remand home and the correctional center. If it has happened in Ashanti Region, do we have the facility there to transform these children? And this is very critical that we need to look at as a nation.
Right.
If we do an inventory and you don't have, we need to look at how do we improvise. In improvising, there we look at what we call now we have the Justice for Children policy. So the Justice for Children policy is also looking at, in the event we don't have this, can we look at what is suitable within our context, and then look at how do we provide within our context and ensure that we are able to put these children back to society, and then they can do that. We can do that when also society value children and see that we all need to contribute for their survival and their development, for their reforms. And for that matter, here I'm talking about the private sector, the religious organizations coming on board to say that if a child is not reformed today, the consequences, it could be on me. If I'm not able to help the child reform today, if the child picks a gun, picks a knife, and come to me in my home, and me, myself, and my family are going to suffer. So therefore, we need to look at how do we, as a society, contribute to this reformation, so that we will have the remand home, we have the correctional center put in place in such a way that the children can be reformed there.
The Dean of Students of the University of Professional Studies here in Accra, Dr. Kweku Mauto, has admonished government to expedite actions towards fighting the Galamsey menace in the country. According to him, the illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey, is causing serious damage to our lands and water bodies. He therefore called on the ranking member of Mines and Energy, John Jinapor, to deploy a more robust method together with government in addressing the issue. He was speaking on Pan-African Television's Good Morning Africa.
societal agony, okay, the remnants of this phenomenon will metamorphose into some public canker. I mean, these are the facts. And when it becomes a public canker, then it makes it expensive to eradicate. It's not true? And that's where we are as Galamsey. National dialogue is eminent at this point in time. Kwame, this is the platform, the forum, which will give myself, yourself, and the average guy the opportunity to express the way we understood, we perceived this agenda by the government for the past 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Now, what are we talking about here? I, for once, will say that, look, for all these years, we have been talking about Galamsey. Personally, I did not really sit to even look at the implication, the negative implication of Galamsey until we began this fight. When it has been confirmed that due to Galamsey, most of our water bodies in the hinterland, that's even supplies to even some urban cities, are dying out because of the activities of these unscrupulous people. Then we began with a certain mindset that let's fight them physically. And we all know what happens when you want to fight people physically without like the necessary other policies, stringent policies to get things done, and also be devoid of the human interference. The problem we have identified over the years is that the solution has been over-concentrated on the government and the party in power and the leadership, as well as partisan activities. And we have stated on this platform, I think that one we are in sync, that, you see, until we have good policies in place, politicians cannot fight corruption. We have to help them to fight corruption. We have to do everything possible to help them to fight corruption. So for me, this dialogue is very, very important, and it will give us the next level. Probably it will transition to the next level where stringent policies will be put in place, devoid of human interference. We need that policy which will prevent people from defrauding the states. We need each and everyone on board. We are talking about the community. We are talking about the chiefs. We are talking about the people. Often than not, Kwame, we always point fingers at the leaders. Yes, indeed. Everything else.
Well, that's all for local stories. Up next is business news. Welcome back. Now let's do some business stories. Some aggrieved poultry farmers in the country have revealed plans to petition President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo over attempts by the National Food Buffer Stock Company to replace eggs provided by them to schools with mackerel imported from China. According to the disenchanted local poultry farmers, there are plans to substitute eggs with imported mackerels, a development which will lose supply eggs to schools under the national approved menu of senior high schools. I've been joined on phone by Mr. Michael Nyankoapim, President, Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us on Pan-African News this afternoon. Now tell us, what is it about this development that government has plans to replace eggs you supply the various schools with mackerels that are imported from China? Tell us more.
Yeah, we also had it just like any other person had it, and that there was an importation of mackerels to be given to the senior high school students. As to whether it's going to be used to replace the eggs, I don't know. But what I heard from the chief executive of the Buffer Stock Company was it was going to be used to supplement. So it has reduced the amount of eggs that is taken by the buffer stock or the school feeding through the buffer stock company. So it's basically what is done is that it's reduced amount of eggs that's supposed to go into the system. That is the bottom line.
All right. So how would this affect your businesses?
Basically, like I keep saying, the layers or the beds is that once they start production, you cannot stop them. They produce till they are done. So if farmers have made projections on the expectation that they are going to sell so many eggs to such an institution or to such a market, and for some reason, unexplained reason or explained reason, the market is curtailed, then it affects farmer, because now the farmer has to look at the situation where he has to find another market for his eggs or her eggs. But I keep saying that there's an unintended consequence to that action, and it is not just directly at the poultry farmer. The poultry farmer depends on feed for his or her farm, and the feed mill also depends on the maize and the soya that is used for the feed mill. So if the farmer is not able to, sell his eggs or her eggs, there's going to be a ripple effect, which is going to mean that the mills are not going to be able to sell their feed, and if they are not able to sell their feed, it's going to go back to the maize farmer and the soya bean farmer. So all of them are going to going to be affected negatively. So if that issue is not dealt with, there's an unintended consequence. The other side of it, argument I've made, is that if we even wanted to import mackerel or needed mackerel, then we had Appiah food in the country. Couldn't we have used the resources that we have to strengthen Appiah food country instead of bringing it from outside? So those are the thoughts that I share on this matter.
Now, do you think that this is intended to collapse, businesses of poultry farmers in the country once you have been supplying some of the secondary schools with your eggs?
Say again, I didn't hear the question well.
Do you feel that there must be some unseen hand behind this? We are told that this is to supplement, the intake of egg by students, which reduce, the quantity that you supply to the various senior high schools. Do you think that it is intended to collapse your business in any way?
No, I don't think so. I just think that businessmen will be businessmen. The government is the biggest player in the procurement industry. So everybody will want to have a bite at the cake. But I think that there should be a deliberate policy in spite of that to use the strength of government in terms of procurement to strengthen the local business. That's why I said that assuming we even needed to use fish to add to the eggs that were being given to the students, we could have used part of that resources to strengthen Appiah food country, because we could have had negotiations with them and asked Appiah food country to maybe produce a certain kind of meat, fish for them at a certain price. And so I guess it would have been done.
Right. We don't
so I think that for somebody trying to collapse poultry industry in Ghana, that's one I haven't gotten any message like that
so
yet.
So after hearing the issue, have you contacted government on this?
Yes, there's been a bit of discussion going on, and once those discussions are going on, until the discussions are completed, it's a discussion, so you cannot be in a hurry to review things that are going on. But I know that there's been some discussions,
okay.
And very soon we'll all hear a few things that have been decisions that have been taken concerning that.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us. We've been speaking to Mr. Michael Nyakon Appiah, President, Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association. We are so grateful for your time. Next is international news. Come back now. Let's take some story from our international partners, People's Dispatch. Overworked, exploited, and exposed to COVID-19, app delivery workers known as motorboys, since the majority work on motor bicycles, face even more precarious working conditions than during the first wave of the pandemic. The unprecedented strike that occurred in the sector in June of 2020 did not change the modus operandi of the companies they work for.
We had the strike and they didn't give in to anything. The rates are getting worse and worse. It's worse than it already was. Only those who have no other option remain. Gasoline prices increase, but rates for fares do not, criticizes Simons, who delivers in the city of Natiroy in the state of Rio de Janeiro and has been a motorboy for over 15 years. In the midst of a socio-economic crisis and unemployment rates never witnessed before, the number of delivery people working on these platforms has increased considerably in Brazil, consolidating informal labor as the only alternative for survival. There is no official data on how many delivery personnel are registered with these applications. The iFood app alone has 160,000 active workers on its platform, according to information sent to Brazil de facto by the company, one of the biggest in the industry. The large presence of couriers on the streets waiting for a call and the consequent decrease in available orders. As there is more manpower available, it's clear for those who walk city streets on a daily basis. 53-year-old Altimesio Nascimento also participated in last year's mobilizations and says that the companies did not engage in a dialogue with the couriers. They never respond, they don't improve rates, and they fill the platform with people during the purple phase of the COVID lockdown with more severe restrictive measures. You walk down the street and see 10, 20, 30 motorboys standing around waiting for a job. It is difficult to work, reports the worker, who also disapproves of the amount charged on the couriers for each kilometer traveled. A higher base fee and standardized payment for mileage were the main demands brought forth by movement known as #Bricados apps, which have still not been met. They lowered fares even more. We are working at an average of 0.85 rounds per kilometer, which is very little. Gasoline is almost 6.00 a liter. We are unable to do a 13-kilometer run for $10,000. There's no such thing. They have not adjusted rates since the platform first launched. It's all on our backs. Lunch, gasoline, says Nascimento. In addition to precarious remuneration, delivery personnel point out that arbitrary account suspensions continue to happen and that personal protective equipment for COVID-19 is scarcely given by the platforms. After the strike's huge repercussion, companies came forth to assure the public that they would implement protective measures for delivery personnel, including funds to help those who became infected with COVID-19. However, in December of last year, Nascimento confirmed what he already imagined. Things are not as advertised. Routinely on the streets making deliveries for the apps Logi, Uber Eats, Rappi, and Lalamove, the delivery man began to show all the symptoms of COVID-19. It is very weird. I couldn't taste anything. It had pains all over my body. Even after I healed from COVID, I still have very bad back pain. Sometimes I can't even walk properly. I still have a bad taste of chlorine in my mouth, says the delivery man. When looking for health services after testing positive for the virus, he stayed 3 days at the Campo Limpo Municipal Hospital in the city of Sao Paulo. With the hospital at capacity, he was soon sent home, where he stayed in isolation. Later, he sought medical assistance through private insurance. With proof that he had been contaminated, he sought help from the app companies but did not receive the response he expected. I did a PCR test, sent it to Rappi, and almost a month later, they gave me $150. I sent them the medical report. Everything was perfect. None of them gave me any help. Only Rappi gave me this amount, and I had already spent a lot of my own money, laments Nascimento. Brazil de facto reached out to the delivery platforms to get more details on how many workers have been infected so far and how they had been helped. Rappi chose not to comment on Nascimento's case specifically, as well as not respond to questions about the number of workers who have been infected, how this monitoring was being carried out, nor the amount spent on aid to delivery personnel. The company merely stated that in order to receive any assistance, the delivery person must present a medical examination and or a positive test for COVID-19. With the confirmation, they will receive benefit for a period of 15 days until the period of isolation is concluded, as it's the current medical recommendation, says the press release. On the other hand, iFood claims that it has already allocated around $100 to protective and support initiatives for delivery persons, such as the distribution of more than 3 million personal protective items and a monthly allowance of $30,000. So these materials can be purchased by those who cannot retrieve the kits available at service centers. 2 funds were created specifically for sick workers and members of high-risk groups. According to the company, all couriers who work on the platform can request the aid, and the fund's remuneration corresponds to the courier's average earnings over the last 3 months. However, iFood did not answer how many of its registered motorboys had accessed the aid, how many possible deaths were recorded among employees, nor how this monitoring is done. Regarding remuneration, iFood states that the rates paid for delivery routes take into account factors such as, for example, the withdrawal of the order at the restaurant, the distance traveled, delivery to the customer, the city, the day of the week, and the mode of transportation utilized. Logi, for its part, chose not to answer the questions sent by Brazil de facto, and Uber Eats did not respond at all. Even though official positions point to the existence of a support structure, Simoes counter-argues that the reality experienced by couriers is different. With no options, he faces the constant fear of infection crossing the Rio de Janeiro Niterói bridge every day. The goal of leaving home early, even when spending more fuel, is to try to earn half of what you used to receive. It discourages people. One suffers an accident, another gets sick and can't get help. The number of deliveries started to decrease. If I don't go out on the street, I'll go hungry. I have no other means. I have no income. I have no money in my account. How will I pay my rent? I have 3 children, a wife. If I don't work, it's over. Unfortunately, we have to subject ourselves to contamination. In an interview with Brazil de facto, jurist George Luis Soto Mario, a judge at the Regional Labor Court of 15th Region and a professor of labor law at the Law Faculty of the University of Sao Paulo, assesses that the formalization of labor relations for app drivers and delivery people should be a top government priority. They are people who are putting their lives at risk, earning very little, working intensely within a logic that is increasingly precarious and competitive among themselves. Brazilian society is facing chaos. We will start to solve our problems by formalizing these people's work, he says, defending limitations on working hours and the right to days off and paid vacations. The judge considers that the narrative presented by these companies that delivery workers work independently and manage their own time is used to sell precariousness as labor freedom and mass shifts and working conditions asking to slavery. The freedom to sell your labor for 18-hour shift is not freedom, it is slavery. It is just a narrative of freedom, he emphasizes. For Carlos Rasta, who does bicycle deliveries in Rio de Janeiro, what platforms offer to couriers in Brazil is far from ideal. Real protection comes when all app companies are fully regulated in that country, defends the members of the Anti-Faces Couriers group. Rasta believes that the first challenge to strengthen class mobilization is to convince the majority of couriers that specific labor legislation for the segment is a legitimate demand. The second challenge is to convince the state that this market needs to be more socially responsible with delivery delivery personnel, something that doesn't happen. They spend millions on advertising to lie to the public, he criticizes. As it is a broad movement which brings together different profiles, and in the absence of a consolidated representative entity, motor boys face internal disagreements regarding the agendas they defend. For example, formalizing employment ties doesn't have unanimous support. Even so, the unprecedented unification of a sector must continue in the face of a precariousness that affects everyone. As projected by Simoes, we are together in this activity. As much as ideas are different, the wound is universal. The motor boys are all hurting.
Credit to People's Dispatch for the international story, and those are the, motorcycle workers, or dispatch riders in Brazil who are complaining about the impact of COVID-19 in the country. This is time will last on today's edition of Pan-African News, right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. Keep watching Pan-African Television, and don't forget to follow us on all our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. My name is Justice Appiah. We're out of here.